Okay, so I have just finished a Lego set that Lego tells me I am 66 years too old for. Hi, I'm Tom Bray. Welcome back to the Since 1954 podcast. And I'm talking about Lego this week, and I'm talking about 4+ sets. And indeed, I just put together a set from the Ninjago theme, set number 71831 that I reviewed over on my other channel, the YouTube channel, since 1954, my main channel. And if you're listening to this podcast and not seeing it on YouTube, then you won't see the picture I'm about to flash on the screen for those of you who are watching it on YouTube or have your phone with you and you can glance at the screen. It's an extremely colorful set. And it does not look, at first glance, like a 4+ set at all, like a set that would be recommended for 4-year-olds. It is much more complex looking. There's a whole lot going on with it. And I would argue that it's possibly the best 4+ set that I've ever seen. But let's talk about 4+ sets in general before I begin describing this. 4+ sets for adults are a little bit controversial. Some people completely dismiss them. Some builders want nothing to do with them. They're just too juvenile. There's not enough pieces. Because I know some adult fans of Lego are very concerned with the price to piece ratio. You know, how many pieces are in a set based on how much it costs. And one of the downsides of 4+ sets are they tend to be more expensive than average sets per piece. This set has 158 pieces, and it was $39. So, I mean, it's not exactly a bargain when it comes to the piece per price ratio. But there are reasons I think that the prices are higher. And of course, you can always wait for sales to pick up these sets. Now, for my own personal 4+ set journey, I have put together several of them, and I find them to be extremely relaxing. So I think I put together, the first one I put together was in the Lego City Space line, and it came with a spaceship and a kind of control panel with a robotic arm that picked up like boulders or something, and it was just really fun to put together. Most of the 4+ sets that I've seen are vehicle-based, meaning that there's some sort of vehicle involved, a plane or a spaceship, or mostly some sort of car, auto of some kind. And I guess it's because they're easy to put together, and they provide, anything with wheels provides a lot of play value for someone who's 4 years old. And so I think that's probably the rationale behind that. There are not a lot, as far as I know, of 4+ sets that are places, meaning, building structures. I know that the Friends line has some 4+ sets that are place-oriented. For example, I think they have a stable of some kind with horses. And if you're a Disney collector and a Disney Fantasy Castle collector, and you've integrated Disney Fantasy Castle into your Fantasy Castle world, you may indeed have built a 4+ Friends set. Let me know in the comments if you have, because I'd be really curious to hear about that. Because for as far as I know, in just briefly looking, this Ninjago set is really the only set that seemed obvious to me as a 4+ set that I could integrate into my Fantasy Castle world, because I already have integrated a much larger Lego a kind of castle Ninjago that I've used for the main headquarters of my medieval dragon, the green dragon that I built. And so that seemed to make sense to me. But it wasn't until I saw this set that I really thought, well, I could integrate this 4+ set into my Fantasy Castle world. And I have another 4+ set that I've built, which is the Friends hot dog truck, because I integrated it into kind of a Legoland theme that I had going out in my garage, because in the summer I set up in the garage, because I have more room in the summer. It's warmer. And in the winter months, I really only have one table that I can set up on. So I tend to keep it strictly to castle and, Fantasy Castle elements, because that's really become my first love. And then the other 4+ set that I have in reserve that I haven't built yet is from, I believe it's retired now. It's from last season. It's kind of Batman's. I think it's Batman's cave, and there's a vehicle and a Joker minifig is involved with it, and that's 4+, and it's very colorful, and yes, it does have a vehicle, but it also has an element of a place, as I'm recalling. I haven't built it. I'm waiting for the summer to build that. So those are the 4+ sets that I've built and have experience with. And the rest that I've noticed that I would have any interest in are kinds of the Friends Places sets, because I think my granddaughter would really enjoy those eventually. And also, I think that there's a couple of Star Wars 4+ sets that may be retired now, but I think there are some Star Wars places that are sets that are 4+ that are vehicle based. In other words, it's a vehicle of a flying apparatus of some kind, I think, and also there is some small element of a place that vehicle goes with. But I find that I have built 4+ sets because they're just so enormously relaxing to me. I'm 70. I get tired a little bit easier than I used to. And although I've enjoyed the more complex Lego builds, what I'm finding is that those gigantic sets that are adult only, sometimes I'm finding tedious to build. And I'm really experiencing that with the Lion's Knight Castle. And I'm a castle lover, and I really am jazzed to finish this set, but I'm having a hard time of it. It's slow going for me. I do a little bit, and then I just get tired of it. The thatched roof in the section that I've just built is really, from a senior perspective, it was kind of fiddly for me. I had a lot of trouble with it. So although all of that is good for me, and I'm not complaining, because it does exactly what it does for a kid, which is build my fine motor skills. I mean, keep my fine motor skills in shape, and also my concentration and my brain power. I do find that the fun factor is it doesn't last long. I need to put it aside after building it for a while. I found when I built the Ninjago temple set that I built a couple of weeks ago, and the Wicked set, which is the Welcome to the Land of Oz set, that those were, I think, recommended for ages 8 and 9. And those were the real sweet spot for me. They took me about 3 or 4 days to build, and I really enjoyed building them. And I'm thinking maybe I'm still an 8 or 9-year-old at heart, because I just really loved building those structures. They kept me interested. They weren't too difficult. The instructions were clear, and I didn't find it overwhelming to build. So that brings me to 4+ and why I occasionally want to build those, and that is because they're really a good palate cleanser, or when I'm just kind of fatigued and tired, and I just want the satisfaction of opening a set and building it in an hour. And 4+ provides me with that opportunity. It's just incredibly relaxing. I mean, imagine you can open a set, you can sit down, and I think I built this Ninjago set in less than an hour. There were 4 books involved. There's a center section to the set, 2 side pieces, and then a front kind of battle place. And each book is for each one of those sections. and not a lot of pieces in each section. I'm sure you could build this with a friend if you're a kid, or a bunch of friends, and divide the books up in the bags. Easy peasy. It would certainly keep a kid interested. Would take a kid longer than it took me, but still, I just have nothing bad to say about the experience. Nothing fiddly about it. The directions were incredibly clear because we're talking about like each step involved like one piece. Pick up this piece. Now put it here. So as far as brain power goes, it was a welcome respite from some of the more complicated builds, and just kept my enthusiasm up for the week. In a week that was, rather stressful for me, this was a welcome respite from that. And just the fact that I could sit down and put it together, and that I knew instantly when I saw it that this would fit into my Lego Fantasy Castle world, and that I could create a lore around it, which I did for this week's Since 1954 video that I posted. So that is my rationale for why I love to build 4+ sets. And I want to tell you about this particular set. Again, it's set number 71831. Because I really believe, and I talked a little bit about this in my video, but as always, I went off on a tangent and I wound up having to cut it because I was talking for 8 minutes just about this set and this element of the set, that I think that it's the best 4+ set I've ever seen. Now, remember, I'm looking at all of this through the lens of being a Fantasy Castle builder. And so, I'm looking for sets that will integrate, and I'm constantly on the lookout for sets that will integrate into that theme, and for sets that will integrate that are 4+ sets, because I want to have this experience now and again. And although I can build the other 4+ sets, and that's fine, and I will, I'll buy some friend sets with the ponies and the whole thing, and I'll probably build them just because they're fun to build, and then put them back in the box for my granddaughter. It would be really nice to be able to build them and have them fit into the theme that I love so much, which is Fantasy Castle. And this does, down to a T. So let me describe it a little bit for those of you who can't see it right now. There are 4 structure pieces to this. There's a main central piece that is an archway, and it has 2 golden dragons on either side. And by the way, again, 4+ sets have no decals. So, for those of you who hate decals like I do, I think most Lego builders hate decals, that's one of the elements of a 4+ set that makes it really fun to build, is that you don't have to deal with decals. I think probably Lego figured that if you're 4 years old, you're going to do a pretty lousy job of putting on a decal. And by the way, if you're 70 years old, you might very well be doing a lousy job of also putting on a decal. I know that from experience. So I think that that's the reason why the pieces are printed. And by the way, I think that's the reason why I talked a little bit about the price being higher, that this set was $39, because Lego has to go ahead and screen print those pieces, and that can't be inexpensive. That's got to be that's got to cost some, much more so than just providing a sticker sheet and having you go at it on your own. So these printed elements are well appreciated in a 4+ set. And I think that I remember from the other video that I did on a 4+ set, your comments that a lot of you buy them as adults because you like the pieces, and you can use the pieces for your other builds when you're doing mocks or mods. And so you will deliberately buy a 4+ set, not so much even to build it as a set, but to retain the pieces from it and put it in your inventory of pieces. And that makes a lot of sense. So again, the center portion of this is an archway with a beautifully printed 2-color screen, actually 3-color, black, gold, and red, with dragons around it and beautifully art decorated. There are then some roof pieces that are very, kind of Ninjago, ninja Asian looking, have a curve to it. They're green. And then there's a little kind of bell tower up top that looks like a gong, as if the gong will start the dueling that goes on at this temple site. Now, on the left side, if you're thinking camera left, meaning looking at the box, on the left side, there's an area that's a smaller build that's in the same colors, which is white, green, red, and black. And they have, it has this beautiful kind of window panels that are screen printed with a beautiful design. It has a tree that's a cherry blossom tree in bloom. That same roof element, the exact same kind of roof element, the green tiles, almost like a tile roof. And then in front of it, a kind of a tea ceremony area, which is, I think, really clever and kind of refreshing. And a bit of a water way on the far left of that build. Very zen, very tranquil looking. Now, on the right side, the camera right side of this main center archway is also the same. It mirrors the left almost exactly. It looks exactly the same, except instead of the tea area, we have a blacksmith's anvil. And it comes with a hammer that probably comes from the original blacksmith set. The ninja swords that come with it, you can pretend that one of the figures that comes with it. And by the way, there's 4 minifigs with this, as well as a baby dragon. So, that's also a plus. You're getting a lot of play value here, a lot of pieces. And so that's, then there's a small little build that holds the weapons. It's kind of like a shrine area that holds the weapons that's not attached. Now, these 3 pieces can fit together, and they can come apart too. So you could set them up kind of the way you want to, with the centerpiece and the 2 side pieces separate. And then the last build of this is like this little platform that sits in the front of the arch. And that's a place that has these kind of revolving Lego pieces that spin, kind of like a spinny mechanism. And that spinny mechanism has a place where you can, almost like, when you get a minifig, you have, in a collectible minifig set, you have a little stand that you put it on. Well, that spinny section has that same sort of stand mechanism so that you can stick the minifig onto that, and when you spin the mechanism, it turns. And you can spin it back and forth because it faces another minifig in a battle. So you're battling on this platform. There's a circular spinny mechanism on the left and a circular spinny mechanism on the right. And you can place whatever, minifig you want there and do battle with it. Now, in this case, of course, it's ninjas, but in my situation, I used Dungeons and Dragons figures for my lore. I had a vampire battling a dragonborn paladin, and so you could use this as just a sacred duel site, which is how I envisioned it for my fantasy castle world, as something that my dragon emperor in my lore has this battle arena that is kind of part of his complex, which has the bigger Ninjago castle and this smaller build that's like a temple. I imagine it off to the side somewhere. So that's this particular 4+ set, which is 71831, and the reason I think it's possibly and arguably the best 4+ set I've ever seen is these factors. It does not look juvenile. To my eyes, it looks like a small build, but it looks like something that would integrate well with the castles that Lego has put out. and some of these larger Ninjago sets and whatever else you use in your fantasy castle world, I think this would be a piece that integrates well. The second reason is the art direction. This is positively gorgeous with the white walls and the green tile roof and the red accents that are screen printed. Absolutely spectacular. I forgot one other element. There's a trophy in the center of the archway up on a stand. There's like a loving cup that you can use or not use. You could actually eliminate that if you wanted to and have someone standing there in the center watching the battle, kind of like a referee at a fencing match. So the final reason, besides the art direction, that I think this is arguably the best 4+ set I've ever seen is the play value. I mean, yeah, vehicles are a lot of fun probably for 4-year-olds. But for me, the fact that you can stage a battle with this particular set really brings out the 4-year-old in me. I think that's cooler than brumming a car around a tabletop at my age, although I am not averse to that, believe me. But I love the idea of being able to stage a battle and just put two figures up there and move them around and clash their swords or whatever weapon they're fighting with. So I think the play value in this set is just extraordinary. I also think that these ninjas that come with the set, although I don't watch the Ninjago show that Lego puts out, so I don't really know who these characters are, but the pieces that these ninja figures are made up of, the torsos, the legs, the headpieces, and the masks and things like that, are very useful pieces to put into my fantasy castle box. I can imagine, creating ambassadors from other kingdoms and generals and all kinds of things with these parts eventually. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on 4+, the reason I really love building it, and this particular Ninjago set, which I kind of reviewed in my other video this week since 1954, which I'll leave a link to in this YouTube video of the podcast, and also in the show notes if you're listening to this on like Apple Podcast or somewhere else, just audio. I'll also leave it there. And I, of course, went off on a tangent over there, and I had to cut all the stuff that I just talked about. So that's the purpose of this podcast, is for me to ramble on. And if you're willing to listen to me ramble on, here it is. And if you're not, well, that's fine too. I just enjoy rambling on. So in the meantime, I do have one last announcement to make for you, and that is I asked you last week if you knew what this was. And a few of you guessed a typewriter, and that's not a bad guess, but the answer is a teletype. And a teletype was a machine that was used by the wire news services, Associated Press, United Press International. And it looked like a kind of a big typewriter. Think of an IBM Selectric, if you even know what that is. That was up on a stand on like a case, because underneath it was just a big stack of connected paper that would feed through it. And what would happen is that in the main offices of these news wire services like United Press International, Reuters, Associated Press, there would be operators that would be typing in the news stories that they would get by telephone that were phoned in by the wire service reporters all over the world. So when President Kennedy was assassinated, one of United Press International's reporters was in the follow car, and there was a very primitive automobile phone, like the kind of the forerunner of our cell phone, in that car. And he managed to grab hold of that phone and put in the first news bulletin into his central news headquarters that shots had been fired at President Kennedy's motorcade. 3 shots were fired today in Dallas. Flash, flash. And what a flash meant was that when the operator who received that over the phone typed in the teletype message that would go into newsrooms all across the world. A flash, as she would press a special button, and a flash indicated that the teletype machine in the newsroom would ring, I believe, 4 bells. It would go ding, 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 ding. And that would indicate to whoever was in the newsroom monitoring the news wire services and the teletype machines, that would indicate that this was a really important story. And I believe a flash was 4 bells. So that's what that means. And so this news would print out with this sound, because that's the sound of the machine typing. So it's almost like a player piano, you know, those pianos that nobody's playing, but there's a paper roll coming through it. So it moved on its own over a phone wire from the central headquarters. And then they would rip off the news story, and sometimes an announcer would go right into the booth and read it cold if it was a radio station, or even go on air in the early days of television and read it cold, or hand it to Walter Cronkite. You know, here's a bulletin. And Cronkite would be reading the wire service news story cold, basically just reading whatever he was handed, which is why it was really important for news broadcasters to be able to read well and read cold. In fact, there's what's something called an announcer's test that I used to give my middle school trauma students that would basically, it was a real test that was used for people who wanted to be radio announcers, news announcers, to make sure they could read copy without tripping up. And so it was deliberately filled with errors that you would, to see if you caught those errors. Anyway, that's what a teletype machine is. So those of you who are close to my age know that. And those of you who are not, now you know. It's, I think, a vestige of our news reporting world. They're not used anymore, I don't believe, because everything is done now. Stories are filed by over the internet now. So it's a whole different world. Anyway, thank you for listening. That's my treatise on 4+. Until next time, this is Tom Bray since 1954. Enjoy your Lego building. Take care. Bye-bye.